and other Palestinian leaders. President Biden asked me to come here today really for four reasons. First, to demonstrate the commitment of the United States to Israel's security, to start to work toward greater stability and reduce tensions in the West Bank and Jerusalem, to support urgent humanitarian and reconstruction assistance for Gaza, to benefit the Palestinian people, and to continue to rebuild our relationship with the Palestinian people and the Palestinian Authority. Intense, behind-the-scenes diplomacy led by President Biden, working very closely with the Prime Minister, helped produce last week's ceasefire. Now we believe we must build on it. That starts with the recognition that losses on both sides were profound. Casualties are often reduced to numbers, but behind every number is an individual human being, a daughter, a son, a father, a mother, a grandparent, a best friend. And as the Talmud teaches, to lose a life is to lose the whole world, whether that life is Palestinian or Israeli. I underscored to the Prime Minister something that President Biden made crystal clear throughout the violence. The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against attacks, such as the thousands of rockets fired by Hamas indiscriminately against Israeli.
Does it appear to you that Joe Biden has any new ideas when it comes to Middle East peace?
None whatsoever. You will have noticed the slightly softer language, the pretend concern for civilians, whether they be Palestinians or Israelis. But the underlying policies are exactly the same as every previous administration. First of all, the United States has this delusion that Israel's problem is Hamas, and that Hamas is this entity that is separate from the Palestinian people and can be isolated from the Palestinian people, and that the United States can deal with the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah and pretend Hamas doesn't exist. These are the same failed policies that have led us to exactly the same place: the horrific Israeli destruction in Gaza and continued Palestinian resistance, which is very broadly supported across Palestinian society. So, going to talk to Mahmoud Abbas and trying to channel aid through Mahmoud Abbas in an effort to circumvent Hamas and circumvent Palestinian resistance is exactly the same strategy that was tried by the Bush administration, the Obama administration. Of course, the Trump administration cut off all aid. But here we are back under Biden to exactly the same totally failed policies.
Ali, listen, I will obviously address more of the issues regarding Palestinians and occupied territories in the next few minutes. But because of what you said, I just wanted to ask you about what's happening domestically in the United States. President Biden is being severely criticized by certain sections of his own party. For example, we've got a woman in Congress, Rashida Tlaib, whose family still lives in Gaza. And people have been coalescing around this movement of supporting the Palestinians in the face of Israeli aggression. Do you think Biden is only actually just trying to tread water because he needs to survive at home, and essentially he doesn't really have much idea of where to go in terms of what's happening in the Middle East itself?
Look, there's a growing gulf between the American public and the American leadership. And during the Israeli attack on Gaza, there was a Morning Consult poll that found that just 12% of Democratic voters, this was a poll of registered voters, just 12% of Democratic voters sympathized more with Israel. And actually a higher number sympathize now with the Palestinians. It was 18%. But the largest group says they support, Palestinians and Israelis. And I think the cosmetic change in language, where you hear Blinken talking about equal measures of prosperity and all that sort of thing, is an attempt to respond to that. But the underlying policies of the American leadership, and particularly of Blinken, are unchanged. The problem is that they define the issue as being Israel the victim of the Palestinians, rather than the reality, which is that the Palestinians are the victims of Israeli occupation, colonialism, and apartheid. And it is not Israel that is under attack. It is Palestinians who are under attack in Jerusalem, across the West Bank, Palestinians within Israel, and of course, Gaza. And Palestinians are defending themselves and resisting. And they will continue to do so as long as Israel continues to occupy them, colonize their land, and so on. And we'll keep coming back to this exactly the same place. So you had Blinken in that statement reviving the same failed ideas that all you need to do is provide Palestinians with a little bit of prosperity and a few economic aid projects, and that's all they need. The reality is that there are people under occupation, there are people living under apartheid, struggling for their liberation, and these efforts to co-opt Palestinians with a few crumbs, these efforts to go around Palestinian society by dealing with a completely illegitimate leader like Mahmoud Abbas are the same failed strategies. And that's why I think even the American public is waking up to this, and there is a tremendous sea change in discourse in America where people are starting to say, look, it's actually the Palestinians who are the aggrieved, the wronged party here, and who require solidarity and justice.
Ali, we have 1 minute left. So presumably there will be a third party that is speaking to Hamas and sending those messages to the Americans. What can Hamas say to the Americans, knowing that it would be a demand, a request, or an idea that they know the Americans can act upon positively, not an idea that they know the Americans couldn't actually move forward with?
You know, in recent years, and let's just be completely fair to Hamas, they have been extremely accommodating. They have offered Israel a long-term truce of 15 or 20 years in exchange for ending the siege of Gaza. They have made a number of political initiatives like that the Israelis and the Americans totally rejected. And because of the hardline American position and also the influence of the Israel lobby, the U.S. will talk to the Taliban, but they still won't talk to Hamas. And that means that U.S. policy will continue to fail and sow chaos and violence across the region.
Ali Abunimah, thank you so much indeed for your time.